Ladies and gentlemen, today's episode is a dandy. You're going to want to stay tuned in if you want to see me explain to you how some sellers who had lived in a home for 3.5 years lived there the entire time and didn't know about over $100,000 in defects that I uncovered when I did the inspection when they were trying to sell. Now, for a number of you skeptics out there, I want to refer back to a TV show on the Home and Garden Network that aired from 2009 to about 2012. I'm not going to mention the individual's name, but he is a fairly famous Canadian in the construction industry, and he had a number of shows on that network. However, this one particular show, there were 52 episodes, and the whole show revolved around what was called incompetent home inspections, and then him and his crew would go in and then fix all the stuff. However, that show got that wrong. They weren't incompetent. The inspections were done to appease the realtor, and that is what went on there. Now, along with me showing you some video and some photos from the inspection that I did that uncovered all of these major defects, I'm also going to go down the path of showing you how realtors are persuading clients into choosing certain inspectors, because they're not supposed to be doing that. And I'm actually going to teach you guys what a realtor's responsibilities are and how they are to go about the home inspection choosing process for you guys as buyers, so that many of you out there who have had home inspections are likely going to be able to see that, hey, that wasn't done with me either. So why don't we head inside and we will get onto the computer and I'll start showing you guys some video and some photos of the inspection that I did, where I uncovered over $100,000 in major defects. All right, guys, back at my desktop here, we're gonna cut into a video here of the foundation on this house. Just to recap, I did this inspection a couple months ago in 2025. The sellers of this property had their home inspection back in 2021 when they bought. The defects that I'm going to show you, 2 of them were not reported on and 1 was reported on but marginalized. They also made a declaration to the realtor, and then the realtor told me that they had an amazing home inspection back in 2021. How does somebody have an amazing home inspection back in 2021 and then in 2025? Defects that didn't just pop up, and I'm going to prove that to you guys. Defects that have been there for a long time. The total over $100,000 all of a sudden are there. How do you have an amazing home inspection in 2021? Something's happening, you guys. So we're going to cut into this video here right now so you can see the foundation. Okay. So I wasn't really able to see any foundation because it's been covered up everywhere. However, I found a nice little spot here in the crawl space, and this is the home's foundation. Excuse me. This is what's holding up your house. So, just to give you an idea, extensive spalling. Okay, guys, pretty nasty video there with that foundation, right? Obviously something that should have been reported on. I found that, like I said, the foundation was covered up in most places. 99% of it wasn't visible, but I am somebody that investigates. I look for stuff like this. I go hunting. I found this at the crawl space hatch is where I found this, and it was a huge find, obviously. Protected my clients immensely by going and looking for this and being the real estate detective and inspector that I am. So again, nasty video, foundation, extensive spalling. This foundation was huge. The house was 3,900 square feet. There was a 1,000 square foot second floor, which means the foundation was likely in the 2,900 square foot range. Depending on what the structural engineer would say about that, if it was replacement, could be anywhere from 80 to 100 grand. If the structural engineer went down the road of bracing, it could be somewhere in the neighborhood of 40 to 60. But a lot of money for repairs in regards to that foundation. Wasn't reported on in 2021, but yet they had an amazing home inspection. So let's move on here to the 2 other defects. We're going to start with some knob and tube wiring. I'm going to put the photos up here while I'm talking. You guys can see here that I got my voltage meter out and I'm going through 3 photos. You can see that it's live knob and tube wiring. There's one in the attic space there. As you can see, the sawdust insulation, we're going to talk about that in regards to knob and tube wiring. And then the last photo, that was on the master bedroom ceiling closet. So 2 of those 3 knob and tube photos, I was literally standing on my feet when I found them. I didn't have to crawl through a crawl space. I didn't have to crawl through an attic space. I was literally on my feet when I found the knob and tube wiring. The problem with this stuff is it's antiquated, it's dangerous, it's also makes your home difficult to insure because insurance carriers hate this stuff because it starts fires. Now, the reason that it starts fires is because when they made the stuff back in the early 20th century, from about, I think, 1900, well, late 1800s, 1895 to say 1940 roughly, when they made this stuff, the sheathing, the outer protective layer, is made from natural rubber, which comes from a rubber tree. And over time, due to the heat that will run through an electrical conductor, it dried out the natural oils in the outer sheathing. And then as the oils dried out, the outer sheathing protective layer would crack off. And then you have an exposed copper conductor that is energized, that is right next to sawdust insulation, because in these old houses, a lot of sawdust insulation was used in attic spaces, wall cavities, and so it starts fires. And so this is a situation where in these old houses, generally speaking, is going to have to be removed. The problem with this in old houses is because these old houses have a lot of woodwork in them, you know, character homes. For anybody out there that's down east, Eastern Canada, out west here, we call a character home homes that were built between 1900 and 1940. They generally speaking have plaster walls. They got lots of woodwork. And the problem with this knob and tube wiring, what makes it so expensive, is not the $20,000 or $25,000 to rewire the house. It's the huge expense to tear the walls open, tear the woodworking off, tear the walls open, rewire it, and then put the plaster back, and then put all the nice woodwork finishings back. So we anticipated that only the wiring was going to be about $20,000 or $25,000. However, to tear the walls open, tear the wood trim off everywhere, the wood beams, the wood faux beams that were in this house, it was going to be like another 50 grand to put everything back the way it was. You know, so we're talking like another $50,000 or $75,000 for this knob and tube wiring, depending on what it was going to cost to put all the finishings back. And then lastly here, guys, a defect that was reported on, but it was marginalized. So what happened was they disclosed to the realtor, and then the realtor disclosed to me that these defects here that I'm showing you in the sewer line, the inspector said it's good for another 3 to 5 years. Well, you can see here, I got my arrows pointing towards these massive holes in this no corrode sewer line. So this no corrode sewer line is basically like a tar paper sewer line. It's very malleable. You could crush it with your hands. Over time, due to bleaches, detergents, toothpaste, everything you dump down your drain, over time, it kind of delaminates or causes a blister. And then these blisters end up rupturing. Now, I know that this defect here, these big holes, those are ruptures. I know that those didn't just show up because it takes literally decades for blisters to form and then for them to rupture. So in 2021, when that inspector said you got 3 to 5 years left on that sewer line, that was wrong. It should have been called out for replacement back then. So you guys, those are the 3 defects. I said over $100,000. This sewer line we estimated, I think, in the $25,000 to $30,000 range. I think if you started to add those figures up, we'd probably be close to about 150 grand. So at the end of the day, $150,000 was not reported on or marginalized. The rest, you guys should have seen the rest of the report. There was like 37 pages long. These were just 3 defects that were going to cost 150 grand, which is crazy. And this stuff goes on because, well, appeasing the realtor and keeping them happy is top of mind for some people, some inspectors, so that they can get more referrals, so they get obviously more work. Now, we're going to pop over to the whiteboard and I'm going to show you what a realtor's responsibility is in regards to making referrals for home inspectors, because they break this rule all the time. I've seen it thousands of times in my career. It goes on right across North America. So let's pop over there and I'll show you what they are responsible for. And I bet you when I show you what they are responsible for, a number of you out there are going to go, geez, they didn't do that with me. So let's pop over there and I'll show you. All right, guys, just a quick little diagram here to show you what realtors are responsible for in regards to setting up home inspections and all that kind of stuff. So a realtor working, here's the buyer, here's the realtor, and when a realtor is working with a buyer, they can make a referral for a home inspector, but they can't refer just one. Their own industry has a rule that says if you guys are going to make a list up for your clients, you have to have at least 3 on it. Okay, they have to have 3 home inspectors on it. Now, in my opinion, this doesn't remove the conflict of interest because they still just get to pick the 3 and they can have a backdoor deal with all 3 of them. But nevertheless, they can't even follow this rule. That's how corrupt these realtors are that I've worked around for 13 years. But they are required to provide you with their list if they want, and they have to have 3 on it. Now, they cannot persuade you towards any one of them, okay? On top of that, you don't have to pick one of these three. You can pick one of the other inspectors in your jurisdiction. In fact, after 13 years of doing business, I can assure you that the better inspectors are going to be down here, not the ones on the realtor's list. Now, like I said, the realtor cannot persuade you towards any one of these three. If they want to give you this list, they have to just leave you be. And if they do persuade you, that's called steering. Again, what's even worse, if you want to go, which like I said, you should probably go with one of these inspectors down here that's not on the list, because you don't have to take their referral of these three. But if they try and persuade you away from one of these guys, that is also illegal. That is also called steering. So I want you guys to think objectionably here for a second. If you're working with a realtor and you're a buyer, and they in any way try to persuade you to one of these three, or they trash talk one of these inspectors down here, trying to steer you away from them, they've broken rules, major rules, that the industry has instilled so that there is some sort of consumer protection. If they break these rules, how many other rules do you guys suppose that they're going to break throughout your deal to stuff you in that house? You know, after 13 years, I've seen so much that just absolutely disgusts me. And this is one of the big ones. And I suspect there are literally millions of people across North America that if they seen this video, they would go, well, they didn't do this for me. They persuaded me to just one, or they even picked it. Now, over my career, there's been a number of different ways that I've heard realtors have gotten people or persuaded realtors or steered them towards certain home inspectors. The first way, when I first got into the industry, they would literally tell buyers that every brokerage has its own specific inspector. Like, wow, you know, and these rules were back then, so they were manipulating people that way. I started educating a few people in regards to the way they were doing that, and then they got busted doing it. So they shape-shifted evolved into another form, and I caught them doing something else. And what they were doing in the second scenario, they were sitting clients down, and the clients would make an offer on the house, and then they would sit the client down and say, guys, during our viewings, what was the most important defect that you guys noticed yourself? And then you guys tell me that, and then I will book the home inspector that is best for that defect. I mean, that is just totally corrupt as well. They were doing that for a long time, and I caught on to it, and I started educating people. So you guys, again, they can make a referral, but they have to have three on their list, and you don't have to choose one of those three. Like I said, you're better off going with the other inspectors out there, guys like me that are on social media, okay, that have no affiliation with these realtors. I don't want nothing to do with them. I want to serve my clients. I want to protect my clients, and the realtors have nothing to do with me anymore. That's the way I want it, and that's the way it should be right across the industry. But they can't give up the control. So like I said, again, if they're going to break these rules, guys, you should look at that objectionably, and you should say, well, how many other rules are they going to break? Guys, just to finish things up here, today's video is likely one of the most important videos that I will create. I have made statements that there are hundreds of videos out there that I'm going to create from all the files and all the stuff that I've accumulated over my 13-year career. I probably have about 100 of these situations where an inspection was done prior to me doing an inspection down the road, and numerous defects would pile up, and then it's a huge train wreck mess because the first inspector from a couple of years back didn't do his job. Like I said, one of the most important things you guys can do is just remove your realtor from the home inspection selection process. Just literally tell them, say, no, I'll get my own home inspector. One of the most important things you guys can do to separate inspectors from each other is the guys that are out there like myself that are on social media and got a strong social media game. We're the ones that are out there, we're marketing ourselves because we actually know how. The other inspectors don't have a clue what they're doing. They couldn't market their way out of a wet paper bag, and therefore they rely on realtor referrals, and the trade-off is that they have to help sell to keep getting those referrals. So as always, guys, knowledge is power. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and we will see you on episode 6.